later. So we're going to go ahead and start the class, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with definitions. We're very, very big on definitions, and I get asked often, what is the difference between a report and a dashboard? What can they do that is different? So I'm going to give you the definition of that. I'm also going to give you the definition of what is a query, because I find that in Razor's Edge, query is one of the most misunderstood parts of the program, and we tend to be using queries for absolutely everything. When you use queries for things, you are working so much harder than you need to do. In the control panel for the GoToMeeting, there's a little option there that's like a little hand raising thing. So when I ask a question, sometimes I'm going to ask for a show of hands. So would I say that most people are querying for everything? Can I see a show of hands of how many people that might be true for? That if somebody asks for information, it seems like query is the first place that you go to get an answer to that? Okay, all right, good. Because what I like to show through this class is how little you need to query to get so much information that you need. In a lot of cases, queries, you can get what you need in a much easier way without having to pull queries to be able to get them. So I'm gonna start by going over those definitions. And the first one is, what is the difference between a report and a dashboard? Now, reports and dashboards are both analytical tools. So they're ways of viewing information that's in your database. The main difference between the two is that a dashboard is interactive. A dashboard, well, I always say that like a report, when you run it, there isn't much that you can do other than look at it. But a dashboard, when you run it, it has areas that are highlighted or hyperlinked there, and they allow you to drill down into a record and work in that record at the same time that you are viewing the information that's there. So it's an analytical tool, but it's also an analytical tool that you can kind of work in. And what I love about them is that they're good for every job that you have. So if you're an executive or you're somebody who's in gift processing or if you're somebody who's in membership, everyone has a use. There are dashboards that kind of apply to what you need. Now, what's the downside to a dashboard? The limitations of a dashboard is that they, unlike reports, aren't all based on date ranges. So the dashboard's job is usually to show you the most current information that you ask for on a regular basis. So they focus on the most commonly asked questions, and but they're very easy to create. They're very easy to read. And they're very easy to refresh. So you can create a dashboard for someone, and then instead of them asking you for that information on a regular basis, they just need to go ahead and refresh their dashboards. Now, a report is different from a dashboard. Like I said, once you run it, other than viewing it, there really isn't much that you can do with it. But reports are a lot more flexible. There are a lot more reports than there are dashboards. They cover a lot more areas than your dashboards do. So sometimes when someone asks me a question, and I think that's what a report and a dashboard's job is. A report's and a dashboard's job is to answer questions that people ask you for information. And I find that my first instinct is always to go to a dashboard and see if I can find something that fits within there. And the second one is always to go to a report. And if I can't get it through a report, then I build a report usually to get it from there. What I don't usually do is pull a query when people ask me questions. And why? So let me give you a definition of what a query is in Razor's Edge. And as we go through this training session, you'll see that I point this out quite a few times, that in other databases, a query is sometimes your end result. It is what it is that you're looking for. But in Razor's Edge, it wasn't built that way. In Razor's Edge, a query is meant to be nothing more than an in-between tool. It's a grouping tool. It's how you go from everybody in the database to exactly who it is that you want to either mail to or report to. But it's not how you mail to them or how you report on them. It's just the who that you're mailing to or reporting on. And the reason why we don't want to use it as an end result is because when you take that query that you build and you run them through output parts of the program, like export, mail, reports, dashboards, quick letters, anything in mail, it cleans that information and then presents it to you in the way that you are meant to be able to see it. So that all of the safeguards that exist in mail to create mailing lists, to send out labels, to do all of those different things, those don't exist in query. And so you have to know how, and you have to remember to build all of them in to get exactly what it is that you need. So like I said, when you're building queries, you really have to know exactly what it is that you're looking for. But a good tip is if you're building a query, like a tip that it's not meant to be viewed is it's never going to give you totals, right? It doesn't give you a subtotal or a grand total from what is there, because its job isn't to give you results. Its job is to narrow to exactly the group of people that you need to see or mail to, and then let you verify that that's the right group of people. Now, like I said before, you need to run a query through an output part of the program, like export mail reports. But just to emphasize that, if you take a query and you export it right from the query, that doesn't count. It's still not going through a filter that's going to clean it or present it. So you need to take that query and literally run it through an export report or mail to get those cleaning features that exist. So a lot of those duplicates that you're getting exist because of that. I have a question here, and please feel free to ask questions during the chat as we go through. Oh, okay. Oh, good. School. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Hi, Andrea. All right. So I'm going to start off by going over the dashboards. And like I said, we always have technical difficulties in a class. And today, my technical difficulties is that the little hand up option seems to be broken. So where I usually ask people to give me a show of hands for something that's happening, now you're all jammed with your hands up in the class in answer to my query question. I can't get them to disappear. Can you guys by any chance hit the little down arrow and get your hand things to disappear from there? Oh yeah, it's working when you do it, but for some reason when I should be able to remove them for you and it's not working. Anyways, um, if I could see a show of hands of how many of you are in the beginning, middle, or end stages of any kind of capital campaign. Any of you working on any kind of capital campaign? But looks like most of you, but that could be an answer to the query question. So yeah, quite a few of you are in the beginning, middle, and end stages of a capital campaign. Okay. Do all of you work, how many of you work in annual giving, direct mail, newsletters, events, receptions, anything that has to do kind of with annual giving in that way? Okay, quite a few of you. All right, that is helpful. That's gonna give us an idea of what types it is that we should build. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with the dashboards. How many of you are familiar with dashboards? Are there any of you that work with dashboards currently? Okay, there's a few of you who are working with dashboards currently. Okay. All right. So for those of you that are hosted by Blackbaud or who have done your updates right away, you'll see that in the last update they did, there's a lot of rage over that last update that happened, because I don't know if all of you have updated already, but they have switched how the phone numbers and email addresses and things have appeared, which is fantastic because we have been asking for that for a very long time. But when you do that and really don't warn people in advance that you're going to do it and what the ramifications of that is, then that causes lots of anger, and that seems to have been what is happening now. There's a lot of angry people with a lot of messy phone stuff that doesn't seem to be working the way that it's supposed to. But on top of the email stuff that happened there were also some changes that were made to the dashboards that it's important to point out. Now, I'm on an old version of the sample database, a pretty old version of the sample database. So I'm just going to point out the areas that are different um, as we go through what they are. So I'm going to start by creating a new dashboard by hitting new right here. And I'm going to start off with the dashboards that are related to a capital campaign. Now, if you're not working on a capital campaign, then just think of it as major gifts. Whenever you're working with major gifts or you're working with pledges, these can be really good reports to analyze how it is that you're doing in those areas. So the first thing that I'm going to do is give this dashboard a name. because most people forget to do that. And unfortunately, it's going to allow you to name something new dashboard over and over and over again. One of the best features of a dashboard is that they can be shared between users in Razor's Edge. So if I create a dashboard, I can share it with other people who are in the organization. But unfortunately, if I haven't given it a name, when they hit to load a dashboard onto their screen, they're just going to see 15 dashboards called new dashboard, and they'll have no idea which one it is that they need to bring over. So it's really important that you give those dashboards a name. And I'm going to call this one a capital campaign dashboard. And I'm warning you right now, my spelling is atrocious. And so is my eyesight, and so I can't. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm going to spell most of this stuff properly when I get in here. All right, the first one that I'm going to build is a campaign summary, and I'm going to click on it here, and I can either double click on it or hit add, move it from the left to the right. Okay, once it comes over from the left to the right, this is a panel, so I'm creating panels. I think one of the other misunderstandings when it comes to dashboards, I think, is that I see a lot of dashboards created with one panel or report in it, when in reality, the dashboard itself is almost like a subject. And then the panels that you bring over are reports about that subject. So what I'm going to do is bring over like 5 or 6 reports or panels that each analyze the capital campaign in a different way, so that when someone refreshes this, they can go to the panel of information that they want, and it houses all of the reports regarding capital campaign. So a dashboard doesn't equal one report, it usually equals a series of reports. All right, so once it's here, I'm either going to hit edit, or I'm going to double click here to open it up so that I can edit that panel or report. And I'm going to call this summary a capital campaign summary. Over here, it's going to ask me whether I want to see this information as a table, graph, or a table and a graph, and I'm going to choose table and a graph. Under campaigns to include, I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to bring over the one that I want. Just a word about campaigns, since like I said, we're very big on definitions. The job of the campaign is to let you report on big level numbers. I think it's the hardest one on the gift page to understand because it has the most flexible definition. When we look at a fund and we look at an appeal, they're very rigid. We know exactly what they mean. They have a specific definition and we're going to use them in that way. But a campaign is a little bit more flexible. But its job overall is to let you report on big level numbers. And the example that I usually give is that if we were to take your development office and break it down into the like a pie chart of the areas in which you need to report to your board, then those areas traditionally for your average nonprofits would be annual giving, major gifts, special events, and usually planned giving. Planned giving we separate out for a couple of reasons. If a planned gift comes in, you don't want to group it together with annual giving or major gifts because it inflates your totals. And if they increase your goals every year based on what you raised the year before, you don't want to include planned giving in those because, again, it skews your numbers. It makes it look higher. And there's no way you can guarantee that another planned gift is going to come in the future, in the near future, to kind of increase. So we like to separate planned giving out into its own area. So that they can see that that money came in, but it's not related to any of those other groups. So like I said, the campaign area's job is to allow you to report on big level numbers of those main areas that are most important to you. Most board members don't care how we did on the fall gala. They just want to know how you did in special events. They don't care how you did on the fall direct mail appeal. They want to know how you did against your goal for annual giving. So it's your ability to report on big level numbers. So I brought over capital campaign here, and I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to go here to gift types to include. Now, reports and dashboards deal with gift types in different ways. A dashboard is a little bit smarter than a report. When you go and you look at the gift types that you want to include, a dashboard is automatically looking at money that's been received and not money that has been promised. Because in a lot of times, if you include both, like a report does, a report includes everything and you have to eliminate the things that you don't want, then you're in danger of, in some types of reports, double counting your money. So you could be counting a $1,000 pledge that someone made and the say $100 payment that they made towards it so far. So a dashboard is always looking at money that has been received and not money that's been promised. But there are some dashboards in Razor's Edge, like this one. Every single summary dashboard that you are in Razor's Edge, you can choose both pledges and pledge payments, because the summary dashboards divide that money up into two separate columns and it won't double count it. So whenever you see a dashboard panel that says summary, it's okay to include both pledges and pledge payments, and it will divide them up into separate columns. Whenever you're looking at gift types, you want to look at gift in kind and whether or not you want to count that type of money within this report. And you want to look at other. Other is a field that drives me crazy because it doesn't have a definition. And so when people put money into other, I can't guarantee that you would want to remove all other or include all other. So this is a dangerous one here, but I recommend that you always check with your gift processing department and see if there is any money that they're coding as other, and if so, whether or not you should be including it or removing it when it comes to running reports. So I'm going to include everything in this case because, again, it's a sample database and we don't have a lot of information in here. I'm not going to include a date range because the date range is going to be defined by the campaign itself. Most campaign goes on over multiple years. So I'm going to let that define the date range there. And I'm going to click next to columns to show, select. And these are the options of what it's going to let me see. And I'm going to check all to see all of those options. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit OK and it'll close that panel, bring me back here. And when I hit OK again, it's going to load that dashboard. Again, feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go through. Someone else is probably thinking or exactly what it is that you are. So go ahead and feel free to ask questions as we go through. All right, so this is a panel and what it looks like when it comes up. And I'm going to go through what the definitions are. Oh, I've got a question already. How do you resize the panels? We're going to go through that right now. Now, it only lets you resize them in a few different ways, which means that right here, these three buttons appear at the top of every dashboard panel that you see. What it's going to allow you to do is that this one expands the panel horizontally, so you can see it wider in that way. And clicking this button here is going to collapse it back so that it's the regular size of the panel. This middle one is a zoom panel, which is going to let you blow it up to the full size of the screen. And then this button here will allow you to minimize it, again, collapse it back so that it's the regular size panel. Now, these options in the new version of Razor's Edge, if you've upgraded, have changed. It no longer allows you to copy a graph to a clipboard. I'm not sure why they removed that, but that part is no longer there. It's my understanding that the copy table to a clipboard is still there. You still can refresh an individual panel as opposed to refreshing the dashboard as a whole. That's usually a lot quicker, especially if you have a database that has a lot of constituents in it. You have the print feature here, which is allow you to print an individual dashboard panel. Now, I used to recommend that people not use this. I'm hoping that they fixed it, because what it used to do is when you printed something, it would print it really small and weird in the middle of the page, which is why we always told people to copy the graph and the table to a clipboard, paste it into Word, and then print it out the way it is that they needed to. So I'm hoping if they got rid of that feature that they then fixed the print part to make it easier. The send to an email, they also, for some inexplicable reason, removed. And you can no longer send a dashboard panel as an email from directly from within Razor's Edge the way that you could do that before. So those are some of the things that they removed. Some of the things that they included, which is actually pretty cool, is that you used to have to hit refresh all the time. There was no way that a dashboard was going to refresh itself. So you would have to constantly look at the as of right here, because this will show you the last time and date that this dashboard panel was refreshed. So the data in it is only as current as the date and time of what you're looking at here. Whereas now in the properties part, so if you were to go back here, you'll see something at the bottom of the screen which is going to allow you to select a time limit for refreshing. So you're able to go in there and say 1 hour, and what it'll do is that every hour it will refresh that dashboard panel. And you can do that individually per dashboard panel, so that if some of them you want refreshed every hour, and then other ones you can do it, every 24 hours or then you can choose what that is. So that is actually a really good feature that they added in there. All right, so I'm going to zoom this up so we can see it the full size of the screen. Like I said, the job of the summary dashboard is to give you a snapshot of the information that's the most important. So this is giving me the name of the campaign, the overall goal, the amount received, the variance or the difference between the two, the number of donors, the number of gifts, the average gift given, and the total amount committed. So amount received is what's been received so far, and committed is what's been pledged and cash that's been received. Okay, so this is what we should get at the end, but this is the amount of it that we have received so far. Now, like I said before, one of the beauty of the dashboards is that they are interactive. So for example, if your goal changes or you don't have one there already, you're able to click on something that is hyperlinked. In this case, it's going to drill you down into the campaign itself and allow you to adjust things like the goal or anything else that is here that you would want to adjust. And when you hit save and close, it'll bring you back into that dashboard panel. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this one here, and I'm going to bring over another dashboard panel. So I'm going to hit customize, which means to edit an existing dashboard. And this time I'm going to bring over probably the most common used dashboard panel, which is the recent gift list. It is fantastic, and it's one that we use all the time, and it's kind of, this one that we created, the summary, and the gift this one here is kind of the dashboard equivalent to a gift detail summary report. One report gives you the summary, the other one gives you the detail of the gifts that have come in. But again, the beauty of this is that it's interactive, so you can drill down and look at more information. So from a capital campaign perspective, there are a couple of ways that you can use this, but this is a dashboard panel that's used no matter what it is that you're working in. Whenever you want to see the details of who it is and what someone gave to something. So what this is going to let you do, I'm going to give you two examples. So say you're working on a capital campaign and you've got a major gift officer who just needs to verify as things come in that they are the right solicitor that's been added on to the gifts that they're responsible for, maybe that their gifts are connected to proposals or memberships the way that they need to. So they're just double checking gift entry as it comes in to make sure that the coding that's important to them is being coded properly on the gifts. Because a lot of times, again, as major gift officers, we know a lot more background about those gifts coming in than the person who's doing data entry that may not be as familiar with, say, the family foundation of the person who gave the gift or whatever it may be. So another example is someone who, as gifts come in, say you're a major gift officer that is responsible for all gifts over $1,000. And whenever a gift comes over $1,000, it's your job to follow up. I'm going to show you how you can use that recent gift list to do a next step once you identify who it is that they are. So again, I double clicked on recent gift here or hit add to move it from the left to the right. Once it's here, I can either double click on it or hit edit to open and edit that panel or report. And I'm going to call it recent gifts to the capital campaign. Again, it's important that you also name the individual panels, the reports, because when you print them out, this will be the title. It would have been nice if they called this title, because really the title of the report, capital campaign. All right, and I'm going to look for gifts that have come in this fiscal year. And this is great. This is one of the only reports in all of Raiser's Edge that's going to allow you to filter by an amount right within the report itself. So here I can say, don't show me gifts that are less than, I'm just going to choose 500 because we don't have a lot of data in here. You can choose to see soft credits or not see soft credits. So again, if this is a report that I'm using just to verify and double check things as they come in, I probably would want to see soft credits. But if this is a report that I am running and the total at the bottom is important and I need it to be accurate, then you most likely would not want to include soft credits because you don't want to, it's going to skew your totals. Gift types to include, again, I'm always going to click here and decide whether or not I want to be able to see pledges and payments towards pledges. So again, if I'm looking for a report with the total at the bottom that is accurate, I probably don't want to include both pledges and matching gift pledges because it will double count that money if a pledge and its payment has come in at the same time. If otherwise, I'm going to pick and choose which ones it is that I want to be able to see. Always check to see whether gift in kind or other are ones that you want to be able to view in this report. I'm going to go to campaign. I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to bring over capital. Double clicking on it or hitting this arrow to move them to the left to the right. Just a word about these ones here. The one arrow will move one item over. The double arrows will move everything that's here over. The one arrow will move one back. The double arrows will move everything back. So that's what it is that those ones mean. And I'll hit OK. And then I always check columns to show just to see what my options are for what I'm able to see. In this case, I'm going to hit check all so that I can see everything and hit OK. And then OK again, it's going to close it. And then OK again to run that dashboard. So now I should see two panels within that dashboard, one that's giving me a summary and one that is giving me the detail of those gifts that have been given. So you'll see here that we're looking at the date that the gift was given, the constituent who gave the gift, the amount, the constituency code, which I'm going to talk about this in a little bit, the gift type, the campaign, the fund, the appeal, and the payment method. Okay. This here is showing me a matching gift company. So that's the company, and that is the constituent that they are matching right there. When something is italicized, it's showing you a soft credit. So that's what that part means because we included them. And these parts here are hyperlinked. So let me just see, I've got a question here. Is there a way to reorder the columns? No, there isn't. It's called a recent gift list, and so the automatic sorting of this is by the date. So it's sorted by date, and there's no way of reordering the column that is there. Again, these can be moved into, if you're going to copy it to a table, you can move it into Excel and reorder them there. Or in this case, it sounds more likely that you probably want to run a gift detail summary report and run it from the date part instead. Is there any way to have this dashboard by a GL post date instead of a gift date? Not this one, but in the newer versions of Raiser's Edge, which this version isn't, but the ones that you guys are on most definitely are, there is something there called a panel you can create called a gift query. And in those ones, you can bring over the fields that you want to be able to see. So if you wanted to see the GL post date instead of the gift date, you would be able to do it in something like that. You have a lot of flexibility in whenever you see a panel that has a query connected to it, it means that you can kind of build your own. Because it's based on a query, it isn't going to allow you to see subtotals or grand totals the way that these ones do. But in this type of report, more likely, I'm just looking at, I just want to see things as they come in. I'm looking at it to review it. I'm not really looking at it to get a financial statement of what it is that's there. So I find that those ones come in really handy when I just want to see things that has come in. I would probably, for what you're asking for, recommend to create a gift query and run it through this dashboard, and you'd be able to see exactly what you want to bring over, but instead of the gift date, it would be the GL post date. Those ones you can sort in any order that you want and bring over any field that you want. Okay, so if I click on the date, it's going to drill down into the gift itself. So this is where I was saying, if you want to click on a gift and make sure that you are the solicitor that was added onto that gift, or you want to make sure that the gift was linked to an event or proposal. Now, if a gift is linked to a proposal or event or a membership, then there are little icons for event, proposal, and membership that show up right down here at the bottom. So you wouldn't have to drill down any deeper. You would know just by seeing those icons that appear down here at the bottom. Okay, and then if I use the example of I'm the person who's responsible for going in and making a follow-up, then I could click here and go into their record, and from here send somebody an email from here, or make a follow-up phone call because their phone number is right there, or send them a customized letter right from here. So it's allowing me, it's identifying who it is that they are and allow me to drill down into their record and do a next step based on that. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, see how it says board member here? The question that I'm getting asked more and more often, because these constituency codes here are showing up in more and more gift reports, is that is not what it is that should be showing up next to that person's name. Like, they are a board member. Why are they showing up as a volunteer here, or whatever the issue is? And let me explain what it is that it's doing, because I think that Blackbaud doesn't explain this enough. And we're getting some reports that look wrong as a result of that. There are 2 constituency codes, and they are tracked in different places. This is your constituency code here, okay? You've got your constituency codes here. So let me just kind of go over something. If your constituency codes are not entered in as a hierarchy, so sorry, let me just move these up so I can show you what it would look like if it was wrong. Okay. If volunteer is above board member, then what a lot of people don't tell you is that the top constituency code on someone's record, every single time you enter in a gift, that gift is coded with something called a gift constituency. It's doing it automatically. It's not something you turn on. It does it every time, whether you like it or not. And what it's doing is it's taking the top constituency code on their record and coding that gift as a gift constituency. So it gives you a specific type of reporting. If somebody says to you, how many board members gave this year as opposed to the number of board members they gave last year, that's when I run a report based on gift constituency, because all of the board members that were board members last year might not still be board members this year, but they want to compare the giving of board members from year to year. That cannot be done from a constituency code. It can only be done from the coding of the constituency code on the gift itself. For that, it becomes incredibly important that they be in the right order, so that the right one is being coded onto the gifts as they move forward. So there's a couple of other things that that are going to affect that. I really dislike the date twos on constituency codes for a couple of reasons. I know that Blackbaud tells you that this should be showing you a date range here. They were a board member, and if they have an end date, that means that they're no longer a board member. But unfortunately, that doesn't work the way that it's supposed to work. Because when somebody is no longer a board member, I consider them a former board member, and a former board member in a hierarchy is still higher up than a lot of other constituency codes that are there. And the problem with that is that the second that you put in an end date on a constituency code, it triggers in a bunch of other parts of the program. It removes it from things that it should be. So there are reports that they're no longer showing up at. And more importantly, what I just described to you, the gift constituency, the second that you put in an end date, that constituency code is removed and it's automatically going to the one beneath it and coding that gift as that. So it's not coding these gifts as former board member gifts. It's automatically, again, then coding them as volunteer gifts. So those end dates do things that we don't know that they're doing in a lot of cases, and that we don't want them to do in a lot of cases. So I'm not a big fan of those constituency codes. I like former and current dates here. Current board member, current volunteer, former volunteer, current staff, former staff. It gives you a lot more control and flexibility over what it is that you're pulling in certain parts of the program. Can you repeat the end date logic? Yes. Oh, so sorry, I've got a few questions on that. Can you, hold on. Can't you just create a new constituency code that would be board member? Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what I would recommend, is that your constituency codes should track current or former in the word itself, because the begin dates and the end dates don't plug out into reporting and things that you need them to. They don't end things. So like I said, if I have, say the board member was in the right order. So say board member was above here, but you have an end date on a board member here. So that he is a former board member, not a current board member. The second that you put an end date here, instead of it taking that and tracking it as a former board member on the gift itself, it is removing it and it's going automatic. It's like skipping over this one because it has an end date and going automatically to the next one that's on the list. There's another downside to having those end dates there, and that's this. I want things in the database to be as easy to use as possible. In fact, I think a lot of times my whole purpose of using the database is to find out ways that I don't have to query, right? I don't query unless absolutely necessary. So, for example, if I wanted to have a board member mailing list right here, I want it to be as easy for constituents to be able to go into the database and to say, I'm creating a new label. I want labels for board members. Filter, constituency code, board members. And that's it. That is literally it. And if you wanted board members and former board members, you'd bring over former board members as well. Because what happens here is that there is no filter for the end date. So there's no way of eliminating or including them in ones that you don't want. So the way that they have built the input doesn't flow out into the output in ways that are helpful to us. And so that is why I personally don't recommend putting end dates on those constituency codes. It's just creating, I haven't even touched on the places in reports, in the financial reports and things, that it eliminates things that you would want to see. I just find that there's so many places that it plugs out to that's inconsistent that I can't trust. I don't know what it's doing. And when I don't know what it's doing, I get nervous that it's going to include or not include gifts that that I don't want it to. So I feel like I have more control when I just use them based on the current and former codes that are there. But to bring this back to the dashboard, when you're looking at a dashboard panel and the constituency code that you see here, that's the constituency code that's coded on the gift most likely. And if it's not the same one, if it's not representing what it is that it should be, then it's usually that those constituency codes on your records are in an incorrect order, and that's what it is that is causing that. So it's an area they don't touch on a lot, but if that type of reporting is important to you, and let me just say one other thing, sorry, because I know that this is only a little bit dashboard related. When I run a report by constituency code, that means that if I'm a donor and I gave $1,000 this year, and I am a board member and a volunteer, when I run a report by constituency code, then you're going to see my name twice under both of those constituency codes. My $1,000 is going to show up under each of the categories that I have a constituency code for. But if you run a report by gift constituency, my $1,000 shows up once under the code that it is coded for. If I was a board member at the beginning of the year and I gave $500, and then at the end of the year I was a former board member and we changed my code to former board member, then I would have a gift constituency $500 under board member for that year, $500 under former board member for that year. That is the difference between the reporting that comes from either. A lot of reports now in Raiser's Edge will let you choose whether you want to report from the gift constituency or the constituency codes. If you're usually looking at gift reports, then they're always running from the gift constituency because it's looking at the information that's on the gift itself. Okay, so that is the recent gift list and a little veer into the constituency code section there. So next I'm going to hit customize, and I'm going to add another panel onto this. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to bring over one of my favorite dashboard panels, two of my favorite ones here. First, I'll bring over the overdue gift list. So when we're talking about pledges, this doesn't have to be pledges for, this doesn't have to be pledges for a capital campaign. It can really just be pledges in general. So let me just show you what this was going to do. I brought one over from the gift section called an overdue gift list, and I'm going to call it overdue gifts to capital campaign. And in this case, I'm not going to include soft credits. And I'm going to go to campaign, and I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to choose capital. Of course, you could look at all pledges. And then I'm going to hit columns to show, and I'm going to hit select all, so I can see all of these things here. Now, what this dashboard is doing is that it's showing me all pledges that are currently past due for the capital campaign. If you did it for everyone, it would show you all pledges total that are past due within the system. So see here, it's showing you everybody who's got a pledge that is currently past due. This is showing you the date that that pledge was made, the amount of the pledge, the amount that is currently past due, the last payment that was made, the last reminder that was sent, the campaign fund, the appeal, and there's that top constituency code again. So remember how I said we need to be using the parts of the program that are meant to be used, okay? When we need to issue pledge reminders, there's a part of the program here under mail that is called reminders, and it allows you to create a template, and you go in once a month and it's going to show you everybody who has a payment that is due next month, right? And it's automatically going to issue like an invoice or a reminder letter for those people with outstanding or with pledge payments that are upcoming, okay? When it does that, it's also going into the pledge and tracking when that last reminder was sent, so that when you get to the report, that's what it's displaying here. So I've been to a lot of organizations lately that have said we have a real problem keeping on top of our pledges. There's some people that haven't received reminders in 2 years because we've been missing them for some reason, and the reminder hasn't been going out, and now there's no way that we can go back and ask them for 2 to 3 years of missed pledge payments that they were supposed to have made. So I need a check and balance here. I need to know who has a pledge that's upcoming and that's overdue, and are they not responding because the system is not generating a letter? Did I not send out a letter and that's why they're not being recognized? Or am I sending out that letter, they're receiving it, and they're still not giving because I proceed differently depending on which one it is that they are. So like I said, this is a huge check and balance for me to make sure that the mail is being generated and sent out the way that it's supposed to be. And one of the great features of this field here being editable or a drill down is that this drills you down into the original pledge. So if there's a schedule of a pledge that needs to be changed, or if there are pledges that you need to write off, you can do that right from within the dashboard panel itself, since this drills you down into the pledge. Okay, I've got a question, so hold on one sec. Okay, for most of my dashboards, I need to know the assigned solicitor in order to split the work assignments. So this report is great, but with that added info. So you mean you need to know the overdue one, but for the overdue one, you need to know who the solicitor on the pledge is? Is that right? I just want to make sure that I have the question right, correct. Which development should be fault? Okay, I do have a workaround for that because I can't get it to show. Again, dashboards are limited. Obviously, most reports are in what you're able to see, right? But I love this dashboard, so I still want to be able to use it. So I always look for what is it that is missing that I need to see, and how can I get it to show up? One of the things that I do very commonly for things like this, and also when people are working in batches and they need to know how to code those gifts correctly as they come in, is that I can well, it's not going to show it to you automatically, and I don't know if that'd be helpful because basically you'd have to click in here and it would show you the name of the solicitor, but there isn't something that's going to show you the name of the solicitor automatically. Let me just think if I can create a amount past due, last payment that's made. I could probably, I mean, again, you'd have to drill down into it to see the name of the solicitor. The only other option would be to create a gift query dashboard, which would show me the name of the solicitor that's on the pledge as well. Since I'm on such an old dashboard, I can't even tell whether or not they've added a solicitor onto any of these dashboards that are there. That could be the case. That's worth checking into. If not, then I would probably check to see that. Is there any way that I could recreate this through a gift query dashboard panel, bringing over the specific fields that I would want, which really is just the one that is missing. I think I can get all of the same things. trying to see if there's anything I couldn't get here that was on that, but no, I think I can. I probably couldn't get the this. But other than that, that's probably your best bet if what you're wanting is to avoid having to click on each one of the things to drill down into the pledge. That's as close as I can get, sorry. Okay, so that is the overdue gift list. I'm going to minimize this one and hit customize to add another panel. And now I'm going to bring over another one of my absolute favorite ones, and that is under gift, an expected gift summary. Again, double click here to bring it to the left, to the right, or hit add, and double click again here to open it. Now, this is one of my favorite ones here, because this is something, especially when you're working on a capital campaign or with pledges of any kind, that finance asks for on a regular basis. And that we are usually doing this work in Excel because we don't know that you can get it in Raiser's Edge. So that means that capital campaign, it looks like this. So I'm going to ask for this total by fiscal year, and I'm going to ask for it to break it down by constituent. And I'm going to include it for everything because we don't have a lot of information, but usually you'd be narrowing it down for capital campaign or whatever you want to see it for. And I'll hit OK, and then OK again. And what this is going to show me is a forecasting report. It's showing you expected revenue coming in from pledges in each of the upcoming fiscal years. So that means here's every constituent with a pledge and when their payments are due, or how much they have expected. Here's a total amount per person, and this part is the really great part, the total amount of expected revenue from pledges in each of the upcoming fiscal years. Now, it only does 5 years ahead, so that's as far in advance as I can see. But again, this is a clear report that finance asks for on a regular basis, or that your board is asking, and this is a really, really easy way of getting that report. So again, you can manipulate this to either include recurring gifts and payroll deductions, or you can exclude them and look at only pledges and things that you have by narrowing it down. Okay, so that's that one there. I'm going to minimize this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I can use that exact same panel, but now instead of using it to report to the board, I'm going to use it for a different purpose. So I'm going to hit customize, and I'm going to bring over that same one again, the expected gift summary. This time, instead of breaking it down by fiscal year, I'm going to break it down by month, and again by constituent year. And again, I'm going to include everything. And this time, what it's doing is I'm going to use it as, again, a check and balance, right? Now it's showing me, sorry, drill down here. Okay, now it's showing me everyone who has a pledge payment due in March, April, May. So when I'm creating those reminders, I know exactly how many reminders and the amounts, how many letters, reminder letters, it needs to generate for March, and what are the amounts that are on each. So again, it's a really good check and balance to make sure that the right amount of letters are going out and that the right amounts are going out on each letter. Okay. Now, one word about that, the expected gift summary, whether or not someone has made a payment on those, they'll still appear on that. It's just showing you what's expected to come up. A recent gift list is in real time. So the second that someone makes a payment towards one of these pledges and it's no longer considered past due, then they'll be removed from this. This is always going to be an accurate list of who is currently outstanding. And you just want to keep that in mind when you're looking at those ones there. All right, I'm going to, that's my capital campaign ones. Now I'm going to build some dashboards that are connected to annual giving. So I'm going to hit new, and I'm going to create a brand new dashboard, and I'm going to call this one Annual Giving Dashboard. Now, when we look at annual giving, we're looking a lot more at appeals it is that we're sending out. So an appeal, I'm just giving you a description or a definition of an appeal. Appeal is a method of solicitation. In Raiser's Edge, every ask that we make, whether it's a soft ask or a hard ask for money, so that includes any direct mail pieces, phone-a-thon, email blasts, newsletters if they have a soft ask in them, special events if there's money that is connected to them. Those are all considered appeals within Raiser's Edge. Even proposals and things that I'm sending out are considered appeals in Raiser's Edge. And they are tracked here through the appeal part. It is very important that appeals have years associated with them. Okay, so I see this a lot. I see somebody create an appeal and it's called Fall Direct Mail Appeal. That appeal needs to be called the 1415 Fall Direct Mail Appeal. Every specific appeal needs a year associated with it. And there are a couple of reasons behind that, because appeals track every single ask it is that's gone out. Appeals can do and have things connected to them that campaigns do not. And so when we're putting that detail in appeal, we need to make sure that we're tracking all of that there. So for example, appeals have the ability to track expenses. And if you were just using a date range to track that information, you would have to remove the expense information on one year and override it with the current year, which would mean that you would never be able to get comparisons for year to year on cost per dollar raised and things like that. Also, and I can't emphasize this enough, if you are reporting solely based on a date range, I think that you are limiting your ability to report. And what that means is that when I have a direct mail appeal, a fall direct mail appeal that goes out, and it doesn't have the year associated with it, what happens then is that my only ability to report on it is based on a date range. And when I have something that's based on a date range, I'm no longer reporting on how successful that appeal was. I'm now reporting on how much money was raised between this date and this date. And the problem with that is that money comes in for appeals before. Sometimes I work with schools and they say, it's the end of the fiscal year, and here's my annual gift for this year, and while I'm at it, here's my annual gift for next year. Okay, now they're both added in on the same date, right? So the gift date for both of them is within this fiscal year. But I need to apply one to the appeal for 13-14 and one to the appeal for 14-15 for a couple of reasons. To make sure that I can accurately report on them against the year that they are meant to be in, but also so that I can make sure that I'm not asking someone again for a gift that they already gave. And I also want to make sure that when I report on totals for how successful that appeal is, that I'm not shortchanging the person who's raising that money by not including money that came in as a result of that appeal because it didn't fall within the time bracket of when it was supposed to have come in. So that is just some of the reasons why it is that you want to make sure that you have appeal years connected to them. But I'll show you some more once we start building them, because you'll see how much more flexible it is to work with appeals when they have years associated with them. So I'm going to double click here on an appeal summary, and I'm going to double click on it here to open it up. And I'm going to call this appeal. So this one's going to analyze, this summary is going to analyze the 14-15 annual giving fall direct mail. Appeal. Okay, and then I'm going to ask to see this information as a table and a graph. Under here where it says appeals to include, I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to bring over the 14 or the 15 annual giving fall direct mail appeal. And I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to go here to gift types to include. And remember, this is a summary report. You may not get pledges for appeals, but if you do, I'm going to check all, because remember, a summary report is smart enough to divide this information into two separate columns. So I'm bringing that over, and I'm going to, again, you always want to check whether gift in kind or other, you want to include that or remove it, and hit OK. I'm not going to select a date range because the date range is defined by the appeal itself. And then columns to show, I'm going to hit select, and I'm going to check all. So I can see all of these things. And here when we run it, you'll see, I'm going to hit OK again to run it, you'll see a lot of the things that appeals are able to do that campaigns were not able to do. So you've got appeal, the goal, the amount received, the variance or difference between the two, number of donors, number of gifts, average gift given. Up to there, they're identical. But like I said before, appeals have the ability to track expenses. And that you would find here. So if you drill down into the appeal, there are the expenses that you can plug in connected to that appeal right there. And when you put in those appeals, it's going to calculate your cost per dollar raised. Now, the number solicited. We just talked about it earlier when we talked about how you need to be using reminders in mail to generate those mail reminders. Okay, well, there is appeals in Raiser's Edge are directly connected to a part of the program in mail called Quick Letters. Quick Letters is a horrible name for what it is because it doesn't just create a letter. Quick Letters create either a letter or a list to send to a mailhouse. Okay, and its job is to create mailing lists within Raiser's Edge. So mailing lists for appeals, receptions, events, phonathons, whatever it is that you're creating, newsletter, annual report, whenever you're creating a mailing list of any kind, they should be created through Quick Letters. Quick Letters have the ability to segment and dedupe mailing lists, as well as making sure that the names are appearing the way it is that you need them to be. So all of those features that clean mailing lists, they exist in Quick Letters part of the program. And if you're not using it, then you're working really, really hard in a query to kind of get what it is that you need. One of the biggest benefits, because I see that there's a lot of schools here. Okay. When schools create mailing lists, you have a lot of constituencies that you have a lot of people with multiple constituencies. For example, someone could be a board member and a current parent and I don't know, like a major donor or an alumni at the same time. And you need to make sure that they're only getting one letter and that it's the correct letter. A quick letter has the ability to be able to segment a mailing so that that person is getting the letter that they're supposed to get and that there are no duplicates on this report. If you are to create mailing lists right now, pulling everything into one gigantic query, exporting it, and removing duplicates from the spreadsheet, you should be using a quick letter. If in queries you are creating queries and merging them together, that merging together feature is what the quick letter does for you automatically. So again, we are working harder when we're working in queries, and we are not using the mail parts of the program to run them through. There are some limitations to the quick letters, but every one of them has a pretty easy workaround feature that's still a whole lot quicker and easier to use than what it is that we're doing now. So to speak about quick letters, the reason that why we did that is because once it creates that mailing list, gets rid of the duplicate, and gives you one nice clean mailing list. Another feature of what that quick letter is doing is that it's going back onto the constituent's record, and it is tracking on their record that they received that appeal and package. So it's tracking that on the record, and it's calculating exactly the number of people that were solicited for each appeal and package. And that's what it's filling in here. The number solicited doesn't necessarily have to be something that we populate. It's something that when those go back, the quick letter is adding it onto the appeal when it's giving you a final count of the number of people that were solicited, which is then here calculating the percentage donated. Okay, and then here again, it's giving you the total amount that was committed. Now, can I see a show of hands of how many of you are working with packages at all? Okay, so I can't tell. There's some of you that are working with packages there. Again, I can't get rid of it, so it's not showing me that. But so I'm just going to give you a definition of what a package is. Packages are hard to define because they can be used in so many different ways. But that's kind of what makes them cool, is the variety of ways that you can use them. And what that means is that a package is usually a segmentation of an appeal. I like to think of it as if I'm sending out a letter like the fall direct mail appeal, but everybody doesn't get exactly the same letter. Different people get different letters. Now, depending on the nonprofit, the type of nonprofit is that you're going to base that segmentation, like they're getting different letters based on different conditions, right? So if you're a school, a lot of times those conditions are on who they are. You're getting one letter if you're a board member. You're getting one letter if you are a current parent. You're getting another letter if you are alumni. You're getting another letter if you're a past parent. If you were a hospital, Sometimes you're giving those letters based on which programs and departments and things that they give to, or membership organizations. Sometimes you're giving one letter to members, like to acquisition, one letter to members, one letters to lapsed donors. Um, so it could be based on how much they've given, or how current a donor it is that they are, or a combination of all of those. You could say for anybody who's a current donor over $1,000, they're going to get this letter, and anybody who is a current donor under $1,000 is going to get this letter. And then the next one is anybody who is a Libun, who gave a gift last year but hasn't repeated the gift yet this year. Then and their gift is over $100, they're going to get this one. So again, you can segment that in so many different ways that you need to. But that's what those packages are about. They allow you to segment, target letters to specific groups of people, and then allow you to track the rate of response on how successful each one of those letters was. So packages always change because we're always trying out different things. Now, that's the way it is that you usually use them for direct mail, but they're used differently when it comes to events. When it comes to events, we send out, even when you have the event module, the most basic report that I need out of the system is a report that tells me how much money did we raise from that event, and how much came in from sponsors, how much came in from ticket sales, how much came in from auction revenue, how much came in from donations made, just general donations that were made, how much came in from raffle. I want a breakdown of the revenue stream for that event, and there is no corresponding report in Raiser's Edge to be able to track that. So what I do is I create my appeal is the 1415 Gala Under the Stars, and the packages of that appeal are gold sponsor, silver sponsor, bronze sponsor, ticket sales, auction donations, auction purchases, donations made on site, raffle, all the other revenue streams it is that you have for that event. And that gives me an ability, as I'll show you right now, to be able to create a dashboard. So I'm going to hit customize and show you how you would build that appeal dashboard. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to hit customize. And I'm going to bring over an appeal package response. And in this one, I'm going to bring over an example of, so two appeals, one that is an event and one that is, so let me see, I'm going to do the 1415 ones. I think there's more information in them. Actually, maybe I'll bring over a few. That way we're able, hopefully, to see what it is that's in there. Okay, and I'm going to ask for it for last fiscal year. Columns to show, hit select. Okay, and then okay again. So let me show you what this report looks like. So this would be an appeal with packages. So for example, if we're looking at the gala, then that's what it is that it's going to look like. This is how much money we raised from the gala. This is how much money we raised from each one of those package levels that we have. And again, it's instant updates of how that information is coming in. And this is a report that we get asked for all the time. So that one's really important. But again, if you were looking for it as a direct mail appeal, then that's what it is that it's going to look like. You can see letters to board members, current parents, alumni, past parent, grandparent, or I think we've got another example of that here too. There you go. Prospects, donors, Libuns, lapsed. So depending on how your segmentation has been set up, and it can reflect all of the different types of letters it is that you do, then that's what those appeal and package response reports are going to look like. Okay, any questions about the appeal package dashboards at all? Okay, so I brought over, again, feel free to ask it in the chat part and I'll answer the questions as they come up. So we built one appeal summary. I want to show you how you can manipulate that appeal summary because it's really powerful to get you different types of reports. So if here I click on appeal summary and bring it over, and then double click on it to open it. One of the things that I can do here is when I hit appeals to include, instead of bringing over one appeal, which is the fall direct mail appeal, I'm instead going to bring over anything that was a fall direct mail appeal. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. And again, I'm going to hit select all here and check all. And now what it's doing when I bring over all of those appeals, again, that was one of my biggest arguments for having those appeals have years associated with them, because if they were all under one, I wouldn't be able to move them over easily and get this type of report through a dashboard at all. So when I run it, I see your question, I'll answer it in 1 second. Okay. When that comes up here, I now have, what is that, like an 8-year comparison of how that fall direct mail appeal has done, right? So it's showing me all of the details. This illustrates here how important it is to make sure that you're consistent in the way that you name your appeals, because it is going alphabetically here, and because they're all in the wrong order, it's looking quite ridiculous. But so that makes, that kind of points out why that's so important. So this one is showing me, again, an 8-year or so comparison of all of how that direct mail appeal did. If I hit customize, I'm going to show you another way of combining it that's actually kind of cool. So I'm going to hit customize, and I'm going to bring over another appeal summary. And this time, instead of bringing over all of the appeals that are for fall direct mail, I'm instead going to bring over all of the appeals that are for like 14, 15. Oops. So 14, there you go. I'm just going to bring all of those ones over. Okay, and again, choosing the type of money that I want to see. I'm not including a date range because the date range is defined by the appeals themselves. I'm going to hit select. I'm going to check all here and hit OK. And then OK again to run it. And now what it's doing is, so what I do, just to kind of explain, is that I usually create all of the appeals that I know are going to happen in the order that I know that are going to happen right at the beginning of the year, and then create this type of dashboard that shows all of the appeals that are going to go out in the year. And as they happen, the amounts will start to fill in. So you'll have a lot of them that are empty at the bottom, and then the ones at the top will have started to fill in as they go in. That gives you the ability to add a report, see the detail of everything that we've done so far, and then at the bottom get a total of how it is that we're doing for annual giving in total. So this is a really good one to see kind of the detail of all of the appeals, and then the overall overview of where it is that we are so far in the year. And that's a really good one to kind of pull there. Let me see the question here, so if I can answer that. Okay, I have a quick question about the appeal package tracking dashboard. Is there any way to include all dates? No, that one unfortunately lets you, forces you to select it unless they fixed it in the new version of the program. For some inexplicable reason, that one is making you pick either a calendar year or a fiscal year, which is incredibly irritating. There is a report in Raiser's Edge called an appeal analysis report. That's going to give you almost the same thing as the appeal package response dashboard, but will not make you base it on a date range, and actually gives you a lot more options. So it gives you cost per dollar raised and all of those things based on a package breakdown as well. So when I can't get it through the dashboard, in which case, and unless you do everything based on a calendar or fiscal year, again, I don't like it when it breaks things down by date ranges, because I just think it's inaccurate. You're probably better off looking at the report in that case rather than the dashboard, or building a crystal report that kind of looks exactly the way it is that you need it to. There is a way to kind of manipulate a pivot report to kind of get it to look like that, but it depends how fancy it is that you want to get into it. So it's an option, but not everybody wants to learn how to use pivot reports. God knows I don't. I only know how to use them in the wrong way, not in the finance right way that they're supposed to be used. But it is an option. yeah, I hope they fix that, because it is the only part where they base something on a date range connected to appeals, where everywhere else they don't. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they do half of what they do. All right, so I'm going to hit customize, and I'm going to bring over one other panel, one other dashboard panel, which is one of my new favorites, and that's going to lead us into the reports part. So here, I'm going to scroll down to the donor giving analysis one. This is one of my new favorite ones. And usually I would break this down by campaign, and I would ask to see it just for annual giving, or just for the capital campaign, or just for major gifts. But there's not a lot of information in the sample database, so I'm just going to look at it for everything. But I'll give you an idea of what it looks like. So that one is going to show me, it's called a donor giving analysis, and it's going to show me, see that? The number of repeat, increased, new, recovered, and decreased donors, and the amount, since this is looking at this fiscal year, that we've raised from each one of those categories, which is a really cool overview on how it is that we are doing. Now, the next thing inevitably that somebody asks me is, can I see who it is that they are? And the answer is no, not in a dashboard, but there is a corresponding report, for not one that includes all of them together, but a repeat report is consecutive years giving. New donors report will give you new donors. Recovered is like a SciBunt or a LiveBunt report. And the increased and decreased report is a report that shows you both of those things together. So there is a way of seeing that, but not within a dashboard, and not as one report. Each one of them is a separate individual report. Any questions about dashboards before we move on to the report part? I'm definitely behind a bit here. Okay, anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask in the chat, and I'll go through them here. It's so frustrating that little hands-free thing isn't working out, because I can't really ask for direction here. Again, can you all try to hit the hands down and see if it eliminates the hand down? So you're moving the hand going down. To see if I can get rid of it. No? Yeah, it's not working. Sorry. Okay. Because here's, like, I try to get some direction for what it is that you guys are doing, to see which types of reports that we can build. 9 times out of 10, the first thing that someone asks me is, what are the best reports in the database? And that is, those are the analytical reports. You're not supposed to pick favorites like with children, but who are we kidding? I have favorites. My favorites are the analytical reports. Every single one of the analytical reports is a good report. It's really interesting data, and most of the stuff here is questions that you get asked, maybe not on a regular basis, but you're definitely getting asked these questions. So these are really great reports. I'm going to get to those ones in a second, but I think I'm probably going to start with, there's one report in the database I know that absolutely everybody is using. It is a gift detail and summary report. Everyone is using a gift detail summary report. That's cool, because it's a fantastic report. But I think that sometimes we're using this report when there might be a better report to run. And so I'm going to give you an example of, say somebody wants you to run a board giving report. Who are the board members that have given so far this year? Okay. Then I wouldn't run a gift detail summary report. I would run a constituent giving history. So I'm going to go here and double click on it, and I'm going to create a board member giving report. So can I just point out so far that we have built, at least through dashboards, like probably 10 different types of reports so far, and we haven't built one query to analyze anything. So I just want to point that out there. How much it is that we've been able to get so far without having to query in the system at all. So much of it depends on that you're using the right parts of the program and how things have been coded in the system. All right, so right here under date, I'm going to say I only want to see board members giving for this fiscal year. And I am going to include soft credits, because a lot of times board members, because they tend to be higher end donors, give through family foundations or employee giving foundations or things like that. So I am going to include, or through companies, so I'm going to include both here. Then I'm going to go to tab number 2, which is your fields to include. And I'm going to say constituency code equals board member. This is yet again another argument. for not having those end dates, because now I know I'm going to get exactly the group of people that I want. So I'm bringing over board members. All right. Then I'm going to go to tab number 3. This is the part, remember I said before, the gift types, where they are not as smart as your dashboards that are only looking at money that's been received. See here how it's automatically including everything. Now in this report, it won't make a difference because we're going to get a subtotal by those different ranges in here. But you do want to be careful in a lot of reports to make sure that you're picking and choosing what it is that you want to be able to see so that it's not double counting. Attributes. When it comes to a report, I can't think of a good reason, at least in this one, where I would use an attribute. In general, there are not a lot of good reasons to use attributes in a report. You might have really specific instances of the ways that you're using them in yours, but in general, there really aren't. So I'm going to hit tab number 5, which is your columns. And it's got columns that are defaulted here, but one of the benefits of this type of report is that it's going to give you a lot of flexibility over what fields it is that you can bring over. So for example, if you wanted to bring over here, let me just make sure that that's an option. There's the GL post date and the post status. You could bring those over instead of the gift amount or including the gift amount. You could bring over the appeal and the name of the package it is that received. You have a lot more options for what it is that you can bring over. You can change the report orientation from portrait to landscape and rename or change the width of the columns that are there. And okay, every report has these 2 tabs at the top, individual address and organization address. And their job is to ask you every time you run a report, do you want to see someone's name and contact information on this report? In some of them I do. In the great majority of them I do not want to see name, address and contact information, because it makes a report that would be 5 pages long, 25 pages long. So most of the time when I'm going to look at tab number 6 and 7, and I always do, it's to make sure that this says none. I can choose address and phone number if I need to, but usually I'm looking to see that this says none so that it's not including it. And I'm looking to see it because it's really inconsistent. In some of the reports they're there and some of the reports they're not there. So I always need to go and look and check. So this says none. That brings us to the format tab. I don't even know what to say about the format tab, because the most important information that you need to select on every single report that you go to is here in the report tab, over here in details, named something so obscure you would never stumble upon this section of a report in a million years, not even by accident, okay? Like again, I don't even know what to say about a company who puts the most important part of a report on the most, like not even at the beginning, on the last tab, and then hides it like near the middle of it where you wouldn't reach it. So, but I can't emphasize this enough. Every single time you go to a report, you need to check here. If there's a way that you're able to adjust or adapt that report, this is where it is that you're going to be able to do it. So you always want to check here to see what the options are there. And you may not need them, but a lot of times they're a good one. So for example, here, it's asking me, do you want to include non-givers? Now for a board member report, that's incredibly important because I want to see which board members have not given and which board members have given. If I hadn't known that that was there, then I would only be able to see in this report the board members that have given so far. So this is really important. Also on the format tab, not in all of the reports, but in some of the reports, there is an additional category here called optional columns. And if you're able to add columns or adjust columns in a report, you're going to find it again here. So you always want to check for details, and you want to check to see whether there's optional columns in a report. And then I'm going to hit preview. And this is going to show me okay, so here is a board member that has not given. So there's 0, nothing next to their name. Here is a board member that has given. This is the cool thing that it does here, is it's showing me the board member, they made a pledge in this year, and they made a payment towards that pledge this year. Here's the total amount of cash received. Here's the pledge and the outstanding balance of that pledge so far. So it's really going to give you a subtotal per constituent. Okay. And so that is the main difference between a gift detail summary and a constituent giving history. A constituent giving history report is going to give you their name, their giving history, and then a subtotal of how much they gave. Whereas a gift detail summary just gives you their name and every single the name, gift, and then the next person's name, and gift. The emphasis is on the gifts given, not the people who gave those gifts. So one other word about this one here is that really you want one board member report that people know how to go in and adjust. So for example, if now they want like a full giving history, then I would just change the date range to all dates and hit preview. And now it's giving me all current board members, but their complete giving history. Also, this is a report where I use when someone says, I want to know how much money IBM has given over the last 5 years. Then I come into a constituent giving history and I say include one record. And I look for the name of the individual or the name of the company that they want to be able to see. Make sure that you're including soft credits and then hit preview, and that gives you a giving history of what that organization, okay, well this one doesn't have any, but it would, wait, have I filtered to filter? Make sure that there's no board members in this one. Preview. Okay, and there you go. So it gives me the name of the organization, all of the gifts that they've given, the pledges, and what's still outstanding on those pledges. Total amount cash, total amount pledged, and then a grand total at the bottom of everything together. So, so that is a constituent giving history, and it's a pretty useful report in Raiser's Edge. Under analytical, I'm going to go over, again, all of these are good. If you click on the name of a report, down here at the bottom, it'll give you a description of what it is that it does, reports. The only way to learn them is really just to click on them, preview them, because a preview is going to show you what the report looks like, and that's what a report does. A query is the who, but the report is what you want to be able to see and how you want to be able to see it. So finding the right report is finding the right fields that you want to be able to see in a report. So all of these ones are good, and I'm going to go over, just to give you a definition, a LIBUNT is people who gave gifts this year, but gave a gift last year, but unfortunately not this year. And a SIBUNT is people who gave gifts in some year, but unfortunately not this year. So these are lapsed donors. So I'm gonna, you run them both exactly the same way. It's just the date range that you picked that's a little bit different. So I'm gonna show you how to pull it. I'm gonna pull it through the SIBUNT report. So you've got to make sure whenever you're picking a date range that you're really reading what it is that it's asking here. So here it's saying include constituents who gave a gift, but not within this date range. So I'm gonna say I want people who gave a gift at one time, but haven't made a gift within the last 3 years. So I'm gonna say January 1, 2, 3. First, and I'm going to go to December 31st. Yeah, a lot of people don't tell you that. If on a calendar, if you hit the month, it shows you all of the months. If you hit the year, it lets you scroll up and down between the years, which can be a huge time saver if you knew it was there and that it did that. All right, so, all right, I'm going to include soft credits in this one here. I'm putting in the date range. Again, you're going to pick, I'm going to include everything in this case. I'm going to go to individual address, to remove it because, like I said, it's completely inconsistent. I'm going to remove that as well. I'm going to go to format, detail, and here it's just letting me choose the order. Do I want it ordered by gift amount or in order of constituent last name? I definitely want it by gift amount so I can see the largest gifts we've lost first. And there's that optional columns. I'm going to bring over the total amount given. And I'm going to hit preview. Okay, so this is going to show me the name of the constituent, their last gift, the date that last gift was made, and the total amount given. The reason that I brought over the total amount given is because I want to differentiate between this, see that? someone whose last gift was their only gift, as opposed to someone whose last gift was part of a series of gifts that they gave in the past, right? Because this person had a history of giving and then stopped, whereas this person made a one-time gift, and that could be for a number of reasons. It could have been because there was someone being honored that they only knew that one time, or they came to a special event and they paid that there. But if I had to pick and choose which ones I'm going to focus on more, it'll probably be the person with the history of giving who stopped, as opposed to one-time gifts that were made. So that's why I find that that's pretty valuable and useful. So that is a Sybont report, and that is under analytical reports. Any requests for reports? So we are kind of running out of time a little bit, so I'm gonna let you guys ask for just requests for reports that you want. Anybody have any requests? Any types of reports that they want to see how they work, or what they can do, or how to run it, or any types of reports that you want or need to be able to run that you want to go over which one might be best to get that. Best reports to check on campaign status. Probably the dashboard, the campaign summary. Is that kind of what you wanted to see? That to me is the best one. It's just a snapshot. How are we doing on the capital campaign, or how are we doing on the annual giving campaign? And it's showing you the total amount that's been received, the number of donors, the average gift given. Just a really good. Well, that one we did. It was the first dashboard that we created here. So under dashboards, if I go back to that capital campaign one, it would be this one here, this top one there, that is giving me just a snapshot in both a table and a graph of exactly how it is that we're doing on that campaign. This one is so simple that I prefer to see it as a dashboard rather than as a report, and also because it has the ability to refresh itself so that someone doesn't have to keep asking me for the report. They can just go ahead and hit refresh and see any updates or changes that have been made to that since there. So that when I'm looking for campaign summaries, that's usually the one that I go to. Is there a campaign report where we can manipulate and add different columns? Your closest bet, like which other columns? Give me an example of the types of columns you would want to add to that report. Campaigns don't have packages, so you wouldn't be able to run those ones here. Any package response reports would have to come from the appeal section. And for those ones, you're either running the appeal. That's what it is. I find that because of the terminology, a lot of people have confused their appeals with their campaigns, because we call our appeals campaigns. I'm doing a direct mail campaign, right? And so because of that, a lot of times they're in the wrong place. But unfortunately, campaigns don't have the ability to divide things up by packages in that way. So you'd have to report by appeal to be able to do that. There is a report that is an appeal analysis, and that is here under campaign fund and appeal reports. And that is an appeal performance analysis. So we're under reports, campaign fund and appeal reports, the appeal performance analysis. And so if I go here and I go straight to my filters, and I say, give me the 1314, I'm going to bring over the that one and that one. So I think those ones are populated pretty well. I'll bring over the gala as well and say okay. And I'm just going to make sure here that it's including all dates, because again, the dates are defined by the appeals themselves. I'm going to under gift types to include, check to see whether I need to remove gift in kind or anything that I don't want to be able to see there. I'm going to hit format, detail, include package information right there. And then sort break. I'm just going to sort them by appeal so that the names, they're sorted by name there. And I'm going to hit preview. And this is going to give me, for those 3 appeals that I've brought over, Here's the fall direct mail appeal and the package for acquisition, donor, LIBON. And if I scroll down to look at the event ones, then that looks, there you go. Auction donations, purchases, donations, gold, silver, sponsor, and then here it's showing me, like it says at the top, the number solicited, the percentage response, the gifts, the donors, total given, total cost, average gift per donor. The prospect pipeline one, we usually don't cover optional modules because not everybody has the prospect module within that. But what I can say is that the prospect dashboards in Raiser's Edge are amazing. They're incredible reports. The only problem with them is that most people's prospect information has not been set up in a way that it's going to flow into those reports. I would say from my experience, even if we were to run it, the information in your prospect module is probably not entered in a way that is going to flow into that prospect pipeline report in a way that you want them to. When the coding is right in the prospect module, then those pipeline reports can look kind of amazing. But until they are, it's really hard to do that. We'll see if we have time at the end. Yeah, it's a coding issue. And the problem when it comes to those optional modules is that you really do have to base your coding on the limitations of the dashboards and reports that are there. And when you know what they can do and what their limitations are, then I can code in fixes to them in the way that I enter in the data. And again, a prospect module is my favorite of all of the optional modules because of how good those dashboards and reports connected to them are. But I would say it's a coding issue. If we have time at the end and no one else has questions, then we can go into something specific about the pipeline part. Let me see. So curious about membership and prospect research reports available and what they can tell us. Yeah, we can go through that at the end if no one else has questions about that. The membership reports, to be completely honest, are kind of a disaster. All of the membership reports in Raiser's Edge are kind of a disaster. A lot of times we end up using appeal package reports for membership as well because the membership ones are, like, I don't know anyone that can figure out what it is that they're trying to report on. They're just so confusing. Whereas the prospect ones are really good reports. It's just that the information hasn't been entered in a way to be able to get them out. In membership, you're doing everything right. Those reports are just, I don't know what they were thinking. I just know whoever created them hadn't worked in membership a day in their lives. So that's an appeal analysis report. Anybody have any requests for reports that aren't prospect or that aren't optional module related? Okay, I'm going to go over under analytical here. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because, again, I can't really see what they are here. But just in case there is anyone who is running an annual report listing out of Raiser's Edge, so giving levels, annual giving levels, and they are doing it any other way than running this report here called a donor category report, then I kind of want to go over how it is that you would run that from Raiser's Edge. And that would be, the first thing that you need to do is to make sure that your categories have been set up in Raiser's Edge. And you'd find those in configuration. Here under tables, again, hiding them in a place where you would never, ever in a million years go ahead and stumble upon them if you didn't know that they were there, right there. These are your donor category tables. Now, if your organization has never used them before, they will be blank. And most likely they've used them before, but they could have old or inconsistent information in it. So if they're there, you can always go in and edit those ranges. Basically what you're doing is you're selecting a category here, and then you're hitting new table entry, and you're putting in the name, and then you're putting in the minimum amount. So what it's doing is it's creating a range. Now a donor is anyone who's given between $1 and $499, and a friend is anyone who's given between $500 and whatever the next category that I create. So I don't know. I don't know, I'll just say gold. Okay, and that'll be 1,000. Okay, so see what it's doing is it's building a hierarchy here based on what your things are. Once you've created that hierarchy here, then all you need to go is directly to reports, to your analytical reports, to a report called a donor category table. What you're doing here is, if I'm doing this for the annual report, most likely I'm running for the last completed fiscal year or calendar year. I am including soft credit because it's recognition. I am including deceased because, again, it's recognition. And most likely going here to check to make sure it doesn't have address information. Then I'm going to go to format. And I'm going to go to detail. And I'm going to choose donor category number 2 because it has the most in it. And I'm going to go to optional columns. I'm going to ask it to bring over the total given just so that I can verify the amounts next to the names. And I'm going to hit preview. When you do that, what it's doing is it's taking all of the donors in the last fiscal year and it's breaking them down into those categories that you selected. The hashtag or the number sign there shows you that you've got soft credits on those gifts there. Okay. And then I brought over the amounts only so that I can look at the amount next to the person's name and verify that that is correct. I can always remove the total given after and then run the report that way, and that will give them, make them show up the way that I need to. So that is a donor category report for annual giving. Any other requests or types of reports that you want to be able to run, or that you have questions whether or not they can be run in Raiser's Edge? Could you review the dashboard you used to show us the results over multiple fiscal years? Yes. So that's the appeal. That's the appeal one. Usually, funds never have years associated with them because they are programs and departments where you raise money. So they almost never ever have years associated with them. They are ongoing over multiple years. Appeals should always have years associated with them. So let me open up that one. That would be the annual giving one here. And campaigns, it's debatable. It really depends on what it is that you want to be able to see. Some people do, some people don't. But in my experience, most people's campaigns are a disaster in that they completely lack a definition. Like I always say, every single field in Raiser's Edge has a job. And for the life of me, when I go into somebody's database and I look at the campaign part, I can't tell what job that field is trying. I can't tell what question it's trying to answer because in most cases, it's trying to answer like 50 different questions from that one field. Funds are usually pretty good. Appeals sometimes are pretty good there too, but campaigns are almost always a mess. All right, so I'm going to hit customize here, and I'll just rebuild it again. So we built an appeal summary, and when I brought it over by fiscal year, what I did was, well, you'd give it a name, obviously, and then under output, you're asking for it as a table and a graph, and under appeals to include, I'm hitting select. And I am, usually because I name them with years, I'm asking for all of the ones that start in 1450, and then bringing over the ones that you want to be able to see, saying OK. I'm always going to check the gift types to be able to see that there. Check all. And then I'm going to, in columns to show, hit select. Check all to see everything that's there. Say OK. OK again to close it, and then OK again to run it. OK. And then when it comes up, let me just scroll down to the bottom there. It's showing me So again, I'm going to send you guys a copy of the recording. It seems to have recorded it fine without any technical difficulties, hopefully. So there you go. Now you've got all of the appeals for this year in the detail of how it is that they're doing for the ones that have started, and then a total at the bottom for what they are. Okay, let me see. Back on the donor category report, the paper report is great, but how can we get the same info in an electronic format by category so that we don't have to retype all the names? What I do usually is I run the report, analytical, donor category. Well, I should have saved it. Anyways, um, last fiscal year. Make sure it's running from the right one. Detail 2. Let me just make sure I remove the optional column, total given. What I usually do here is I hit preview, and then I hit this button here, which will allow me to export it, and I either export it into Word or Excel. So this is going to be application, and this will be like Excel. And then from there, I use the find replace to get rid of some of the stuff that shows up that I don't want there. But at least now I've got it in like an electronic format, and I can just kind of adjust it from there. Yeah, I don't know if I've got an old. There you go. So it shows up like this. Again, for those people that are kind of savvy in Excel. I'm not savvy in Excel or Word, so usually, yeah, you can do that for any report that's in the system. So I get it into here. I believed then I used to like combine it into one column and then paste it into Word and then get rid of the spacing by get rid of the hard break. It sounds like a lot of work, but really the way that people are doing this right now is so much more work than just getting it and manipulating it in Word or Excel. And for those of you that are already familiar with Excel, I'm probably doing it all wrong once I get it in here. It's just that I'm not an expert in Microsoft Office stuff in any way, so it makes it harder. Okay. Yeah, you can export or any report or dashboard into Word, Excel, a PDF file. It's pretty flexible that way. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Would you include a fiscal year in the campaign? In our database, we have campaigns with fiscal years, funds basically given categories without fiscal years, and appeals with fiscal years. My problem with campaigns isn't the fiscal years. I think sometimes it's definitely beneficial. For example, I always use the example when it comes to campaigns is that it's my ability to report to the board on those big level numbers. So if I want to be able to show them a breakdown of annual giving to capital campaign, major gifts, special events, planned giving, a lot of times they want to see a year by year comparison. Well, how did you do for those categories this year opposed to last year? That's fine. That to me seems like a really good reason for why you need years connected to those campaigns. When I need to compare and contrast because I'm being asked that. My problem is more with what people's campaigns are, not the fiscal years associated with them. Um, Usually it's that those campaigns are trying to do the same job or part of the job of the appeals, and that's where we get into trouble. So as long as your as long as your campaigns are good campaigns, having the fiscal year on them, as long as the purpose of it is to compare and contrast to the board on those big level numbers from year to year, there's not a problem with it at all. I think it serves its purpose and it does it the way that I used to be very anti having years against campaigns, but in as I've gotten older, I've mellowed and I see that yeah, it definitely has a benefit to it, and as long as it's saving me time, then it makes sense to have it there. Um, your funds don't sound like funds. Funds aren't usually giving categories. Well, I mean, unless by that you mean funds are where the money is going. So funds are usually programs, departments, the names of scholarships or endowments. The name of the fund is either unrestricted or the name of the program, department, scholarship, endowment that money is restricted to. So if that's what your funds look like, then those sound right from there. I don't know if that was helpful. Appeals with fiscal years, yeah, appeals should always have years associated with them. As you can see from the I mean, like if you were using quick letters to create those lists, but then when you look at the reports on how it is that it's able to analyze them it's so much more flexible when they have those years on there than when they don't. So I'm a big fan of having them there. So individual giving would be our campaign. Funds would be friends. Oh no, your funds are recognition levels. December for oh no. Yeah. If it was up to me, I would completely restructure the way your campaign funds and appeals are. I don't think it's set up to be able to give you. I don't think they're set up in a way that it should be able to answer questions with ease the way that you need them to. They definitely don't match the definitions of what Blackbaud feels that they should be there. And the main problem with that is that means they're not flowing into the reports that are connected to all of them in the right way. So I think that for you guys, you would definitely benefit from a restructuring because you'd be better able to answer the questions of what it is that you need. Like what you've got in Friends Benefactor, all that part, that's a report. That's that report that we just ran. It's not what they give to, it's the level that they end up in. Especially because what if somebody gives multiple gifts in a year? One gift might be at the level of friend, but by the time they get to the end of the year, they've given 3, and that would make them a recognition level of one that is higher. So I definitely would recommend kind of a restructuring there with the way that you're doing it. I'm going to add my phone number or my email address here, and I will be giving you guys a copy of the video for this on YouTube, which is going to be mailed to the email address that's on the that you registered under. So if you have another one other than the one that you were registered under, you probably need to let me know. Canva.com. Oh, Marzili. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, I spelled my name right. Okay, any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes, so if you have questions about the pipeline report or the membership stuff, here's your chance. I don't have a ton of time because I have to get to a meeting, but go ahead and ask if it's something quick that I can go through. I'll be happy to do that. I know you had a question about the pipeline. I don't know if you're still on, but if you could explain, if you're still on, what you need the pipeline to be doing that it's not doing, or because I'm assuming that if you know it's there, you've already ran it and you're probably not happy with how or what it is that it's showing. And again, anyone else that has any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask. Okay. Who was it that had the question about the pipeline one? Let me just see. Oh, that was Rose. Let me just see. Oh, Rose is still there. Just not coming out as needed, so wanted to get your view on how to use it best. It's not, in my experience, it's those prospect reports are simply just not going to look the way that they need to unless your coding in the prospect module is in there a really specific way. That is a long discussion, and we do a prospect and moves management class, but man, is that a long conversation. Those pipeline reports in a proposal come from 2 places. They come from, so if I open up a constituent, they come from 2 different places, and that is they come from the classification they come from the prospect status that you have here, which in my experience, 9 times out of 10 looks like this, and that is definitely not the type of information that you want here. Prospect status here should definitely not be the status of a solicitation. That's not the type of things that we want here. That's probably part of the problem that we're having. This information should not be here. It should be here in a proposal, in the status field, right here. So that prospect pipeline is either coming from the status of a proposal, in which case this is what you need there: identification, research, all those moves management steps. In the constituent record itself, This should be tracking something completely different, which is more of it's coding and identifying your prospects, rating and ranking them so that it's looking at whether they're a VIP tier 1, VIP tier 2, VIP tier 3, and that gives you in a pipeline the ability to kind of look at this person is working on like 10 VIP tier 1s, 6 VIP tier 2s, 5 fans or long shots or however it is that it's broken down. Um, um, yes, let me just see if I can get a link thing for that. Actually, I don't have one on me. You know what? I'll send it on the when I send you the copy of the YouTube video. I'll give you a link to our online class. It is that we do. Again, Prospect module is a really good module. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's what I get for going on the internet. Okay, and all right. So yeah, it is a really good optional module. It just has to be used a specific way, and then it's a fantastic tool. But I'll send you a link to our online classes in the attached to the video that I'm going to send out. Let me see. We have prospect info tied to our assigned solicitor info as well, which I think is complicated things. I mean, that might be or it might not be. 9 times out of 10, depending on the one that you're running, it's really pulling from the proposal itself. So what matters is the solicitor that's connected to the proposals that you're generating. So really it depends. I mean, I believe that in those ones you have the ability to narrow it down in the dashboard itself based on a query. So you should be able to pull ones specific to a solicitor, whether it's the lead or the assisting. I should be able to narrow down to who it is that they are, but we'd have to kind of play around with it to see what it is that you need and how. I have a feeling that wouldn't be that complicated. But yeah, it's hard. You have to kind of play around and look at it what it is. Any other specific types of reports or dashboards you want to take a look at? We got like a minute. In that case, I think I'm just gonna say thank you guys for joining and participating, and I'll be sending you a video out shortly. I hope you all query less as a result of having taken this class, and my job will have been done. And again, if you have any questions at all, just let me know. I'll include my contact information in the YouTube video that I send you guys. Okay? Thanks a lot, guys. Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, have a good rest of your day. And stay warm if you're on the east. Thanks a lot.